In this podcast episode, the hosts discuss the GOP debate that took place the previous day. They start by talking about their experience at the debate, including their interactions with the audience and their thoughts on the candidates' performances. They also mention a conversation they had with a Mexican man at a restaurant who expressed his disagreement with their negative views on California. The hosts then move on to discuss the winners and losers of the debate. They mention that Mike Pence did not perform well and suggest that he should step away from politics. They also praise Nikki Haley for her strong presence and consider her a potential alternative to Donald Trump. They note that she received a lot of attention and positive feedback after the debate. They also mention that Vivek, a relatively unknown candidate, had a strong performance and received a lot of searches on Google. The hosts also discussed the presence of Governor Newsom at the debate and his interactions with Sean Hannity. They suggest that Newsom may be positioning himself as a potential candidate for president if Biden steps down. They also mention that Trump had a strong presence at the debate, despite not being physically present, and that he had a heated exchange with Hannity. The hosts then discuss a question about fracking that was asked during the debate. They criticize DeSantis for his response, saying that he could have given a better answer. They also mention that Nikki Haley scored a point against DeSantis by painting him as anti-fracking. The hosts then move on to discuss Mike Pence's failed attempt at comedy during the debate. They criticize his delivery and suggest that he should step away from politics. They also mention that Chris Christie called Donald Trump Donald Duck during the debate, which they found amusing. They also mention that Haley called Vivek dumb during the debate. The hosts continue by discussing the debate between Newsom and DeSantis, highlighting the differences in their agendas and approaches to governing their respective states. They praise DeSantis for his focus on encouraging work and reducing welfare programs in Florida, contrasting it with the situation in California. They also discuss the possibility of DeSantis running for president in the future and the potential impact of Trump's support on his candidacy. Next, the hosts analyze a clip from the debate where Ramaswamy discusses his views on social media and his involvement with TikTok. They note that Ramaswamy presents himself as a non-establishment candidate and criticize his inconsistency in his messaging, as he initially positions himself as an outsider but later calls for unity. They compare his approach to that of Trump, who consistently emphasized his outsider status throughout his campaign. The hosts then discuss the performance of Nikki Haley, a guest on the podcast, during the debate. They praise her for her strong and assertive demeanor, particularly when she confronts Ramaswamy about his involvement with China. They note that Haley effectively challenges Ramaswamy's credibility and highlights his connections to China, which could be seen as a potential conflict of interest. The hosts also discussed the strategy of the Republican National Committee, RNC, in targeting Ramaswamy during the debate. They suggest that the RNC may have provided the other candidates with information to attack Ramaswamy on his China connections, as he is seen as an anti-establishment candidate. They argue that the establishment is trying to eliminate Ramaswamy as a potential threat to their preferred candidates. The conversation then shifts to the potential candidacy of Trump. The hosts note that Trump was the clear winner of the first debate and speculate on his chances of winning the nomination. They discuss the upcoming debates and the possibility of other candidates dropping out of the race. They also mention the efforts to discredit Trump, such as the recent valuation of Mar-a-Lago by a New York judge, which they see as an attempt to freeze his assets and prevent him from campaigning. The hosts conclude by discussing the hypocrisy of New York politicians regarding immigration. They highlight the contradictory statements made by New York politicians, such as encouraging migrants to come to the state while also saying there is no capacity to accommodate them. They argue that this hypocrisy reflects the broken political system in America and the disregard for the well-being of veterans and other citizens. The hosts then shift their focus to Nikki Haley's comments during the debate. They highlight her statement that Mexican cartels should be treated as terrorists and express concern over the implications of such a policy. They argue that this would be an act of war and criticize Haley for openly discussing military plans if she were to become president. They also note the hypocrisy of the left, who previously criticized Trump for his stance on border security but now seem to support a more aggressive approach. Next, the hosts discuss Mike Pence's performance during the debate. They play a clip of his attempts at humor, which fell flat with the audience. They joke about his lack of charisma and suggest that he put everyone to sleep. However, they also acknowledge the political nature of such events and how politicians often receive praise regardless of their actual performance. The conversation then turns to the issue of Ukraine funding. Tim Scott, a participant in the debate, claimed that the funding for Ukraine is actually a loan rather than a gift. The hosts express skepticism about this claim and question whether it has been verified. They also discuss the financial implications of providing aid to other countries when the United States is already in significant debt. Towards the end of the podcast, the hosts provide a historical perspective on the current political situation. They draw parallels to the 1968 Democratic primary, where Lyndon Johnson withdrew from the race and Hubert Humphrey ultimately became the nominee. They suggest that a similar scenario could occur if Joe Biden were to back out of the race, with the delegates potentially rallying around another candidate at the convention. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.